how bad can negative accumulation in the house become?
Really bad. So when we talk about paranormal phenomenon, we are actually referring to, of course, the attraction of entities and maybe ghosts.
Yeah, that I've personally experienced before. Hi, I'm Eileen.
Hi, I'm Emi.
And welcome to The Other Realm. Today we are talking about space clearing. So personally, I think it's important to not only get rid of physical junk from the house, but also to get rid of spiritual junk, because years and years of accumulation of negative energy can make the whole space feel dark and heavy. You may not be able to see it, but you might be able to feel it.
Yes, in a lot of cases, when we live in a house, the house becomes like our home, and home is usually where you feel most relaxed. So for our energy systems, when we are really relaxed, that's when we actually start to detox. That's why some people, they can like be really sort of composed outside, but then when they come home, they suddenly feel emotional, whether it's anger or sadness, and you feel like more comfortable like releasing negative emotions also at home. However, these negative emotions do not just disappear. The negative emotions actually can sometimes get stuck in your furniture, like your sofas, bed, if you were lying in bed feeling like sorry for yourself. Although technically fabric-based like materials tend to absorb more like energy, but if your negative energy is really heavy, it can be like anywhere, and it can also hang around in your house. This is especially bad if there is not a lot of sunlight, or there is a bad air circulation within like your home. And you imagine like if your house has been there maybe 20 years, then and there have been many people that like have been living in it, then imagine what's going to happen with all this accumulated sort of negative like energy. So if you are renting a house especially and walking in a house for the first time and feeling discomfort, it may not necessarily be the configuration of the space, it could actually be the energy that's left over from previous occupants.
We talk about like negative energy accumulation or even like ghosts in the house, and especially if your home is very chaotic and people are maybe always arguing or having conflict. So could you say that it's like a lot worse than if occupants were sort of behaving normally, so to speak?
Yes, so for example, if the occupants are not psychic sensitive,
okay,
they won't feel anything.
Okay.
So it's like if you're in an office environment, and even though there are negative people around you, but you are not affected by them, then you remain positive. But if you sense the negativity and you react to it, then you may end up being like more negative like as well. So where the psychic phenomenon is concerned, if you're psychic sensitive, then you are actually more susceptible to disturbances.
And how bad can negative accumulation in the house become?
Really bad. So I remember about 7 years ago, I had a client and her daughter kept falling ill, but every time they actually went to the doctors, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the daughter. So she asked me if it could be energetic, and I said, okay, yeah, let's do a review of your house like energy and sort of check like what's like happening. Because this daughter of hers happens to be very sensitive to psychic phenomena, but because she's quite young, she's not able to articulate like what is it that she sees and all. So I remember like having a huge shock, because when I walked in through her front door, I saw all this like energy snakes like all over the floor. So like if you can't see it, it looks like a normal floor. But because I had tuned in the energy of the house, literally the whole floor was like a snake pit.
But why was it there?
I investigated and I traced the origin back to this large vase. What I found inside it was actually some amulets that had been sent to her because she donated to a temple overseas.
Oh,
Yeah, so those amulets were the origin of like the energy snakes and was meant to sort of like get her to continue to donate to the temple.
oh no.
And she did tell me that she had a compulsion every year, like she needed to donate to the temple, and she even felt like inclination to go there, except that she wasn't able like to, because like her children were like young and having exams or something, so she was tied down like in Singapore. And so we actually cleared like the whole house and then protected it and got her to like bury like the amulets. So
Okay.
only then was like the issue actually resolved.
What are like some of the things that we can do in basic just to clear away general negative energies in the house?
First is things like sage and Palo Santo is quite useful for you to just like clear out the house. Okay. You can also use essential oils like frankincense because the frankincense energy is quite like sacred and clearing. So diffusing it in your house can actually help to clear out some negative energy. Of course, if you have large windows and on your house, opening your windows, letting the sunlight in can help to clear to a certain extent. I often also use, when I do like professional like a house clearing, I often use a singing bowl and a combination of channeled energy. But channeled energy, if you are doing your own house clearing, you may not necessarily be able to do it unless you're trained like to. And if you want to sort of like protect like your home, you can also greet your house with crystals or shot glasses of sea salt or Himalayan salt.
So how do we know if the space, after doing all of this, the space is cleared?
Usually you would feel like different walking into the space. You can also test with a pendulum. So just stand in the middle of space and then hold the pendulum and ask the pendulum to test the energy of the space. Yeah, because as you continue to live in the space, or if you have guests coming into the space, you may actually also detox in the space, so you may need to do regular clearing. So if you have a particular season where you are under a lot of pressure, then you want to clear more. Alternatively, would be if you like to have parties in your house. So the more people that you have in a house, the more you want to clear it.
Okay.
In fact, what I recommend is every time you have like any guests like in your house, it's a good idea after they leave to just clear the space. Yeah.
Some people might ask, I feel okay and happy in my space. Like, do I still need to clear it?
That's actually very like subjective because we all know that humans, when they are in a toxic like environment, sometimes they get used to it. So this process of normalization is like normal. It's just like, for example, when you get a whiff of a bad smell, after a while, the bad smell goes, but it does not necessarily go. It's just that you get used to it, you stop smelling it. But the smell is still there.
It's like your own poop don't stink.
Yes.
Which space in the house is usually the most negative?
Toilets naturally are more negative.
Because we pee and whatever.
Yeah,
that.
in our place where there's a huge congregation of like a negative energy, it's usually where you relax and where you work. So for example, if you often come back from work and then you lie on a sofa, that's likely the place that you detox, and then that's also where you have lots of negative energy. A lot of people work from home, so if you're working in your like study or you're working at your living room, then, and especially if you feel really stressed when you're working, then that's likely where you will also have lots of negative energy.
So I think like you can gauge according to your own awareness.
The other place that has a strong accumulation is usually your bed, because we detox a lot when we are actually sleeping.
If I were to rank normally, I would say toilet, bedroom, then maybe living room on normal days where you are doing like normal activities.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a course coming up about space clearing.
The course is working with on the basis that you can clear your house like yourself using simple, easy sort of like methods, so that it is not too much sort of a fuss. And also, I think it is a good practice to clear the energy of your house like all the time on a regular basis, so that you can maintain the clarity of like energy. It's a little bit like you would do housekeeping for like your house on a regular basis. You wouldn't wait until it becomes like really dirty. A house with very clear energy, it really helps you to think better, think more clearly, and you also feel like more positive and more easy like to be happy, yeah, and healthier for sure. So the first step is preparing like yourself. The main idea of preparing yourself is for you to make sure that your own energy is stable and clear, and you are not actually casting off negative energies as you're clearing your space.
I think it's very important to take care of your space, because someone once ever told me that the condition of your house reflects the condition of your mind. So for me personally, I enjoy keeping the space like clear. But that's about it for space clearing. We'll see you next time.
Bye! And then she likes the moving. So when you hold it differently, it sounds different.